am Michelle Chalfant, psychotherapist, holistic life coach, and human just like you, learning to navigate life's challenges. With over 25 years experience, I teach people how to get healthy using the adult chair model. The adult chair model is where simple psychology meets grounded spirituality, and it teaches us how to become healthy adults. From anxiety and depression to codependency and relationship issues, you can use the adult chair for just about anything. Each week, I share practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and a wide range of experts on how to get unstuck, how to live authentically, and how to truly love yourself, all while sitting in your adult chair. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. I am Michelle Chalfant, here with you today talking all about the Enneagram with our favorite expert. I'm going to call her our in-house expert because I think this is podcast 5 or 6 we've done with Ramona Reid. Ramona is one of my favorite people in the world. She is a dear friend, but also really internationally known as an Enneagram expert. She knows her stuff. And for those of you that are listening right now, saying to yourselves, what the heck is an Enneagram? Let me just break it down. It's a personality typing system. Really, it describes how people interpret the world and manage their emotions. That's all it is. And you're either 1 through 9. And it's fascinating because when you learn your type or your number, you really understand yourself like in a deeper way. And what I love about Ramona is that she takes the Enneagram and weaves it in through the adult chair model. It's phenomenal. It's fascinating to listen to her. So, but if you're listening and thinking, I have never heard of such a thing, this Enneagram, but people do talk about it and they ask me what number I am or what type I am, I would suggest you pause this episode today and go back and listen to episode number 51. That was the first time she was on, and she broke down for us what the Enneagram is and even what each number or what each type and number mean the same thing, represents. So you'll be able to kind of say to yourself, oh gosh, I kind of sound like a number 5, or I sound like a number 2, and then, or a type 2 or whatever, a type 9, and then come back and listen to this one. So today she and I talked about really the Enneagram and what it looks like to be really healthy in each type, because so often we talk about the shadow aspects of the Enneagram, like, okay, well, if you show up like this, that's because you're a type whatever, and this is what you need to work on, and these are the inner child woundings and all this stuff. But today it was more about the healthy aspects of each type. And she goes through each and every type. And it was amazing, as always. I just love having her on. So we're going to get to that in a moment. But, you know, I'm a little early announcing this, and my team might get mad at me, but I just don't care. And I'm announcing this 2 days early because I'm a type 7. So all of you 7 out there know why I'm doing this, because 7s are very enthusiastic and we get excited about everything and we love life and all this stuff. So I'm just going to secretly tell you guys, so don't tell anybody, that our adult chair certified coaches are graduating in 2 days. Shh, don't tell anybody. And the coolest thing is that Ramona is in our first inaugural class. She is she's not only an Enneagram coach, but she's also a adult chair certified coach. So very, very excited about that. But you guys have asked me for coaches or therapists really all around the world. I've gotten these emails for years and years and years asking me, hey, is there a coach or a therapist that lives in Germany, that lives in Switzerland? I mean, we get emails all over, as well as Des Moines, Iowa, LA, you name it, Chicago. And now I can, thank goodness for all of these people that came through our first class, I can now say yes. We have adult chair coaches internationally, and we are launching our next class in just a few months. So if you would like to check out some of our amazing adult chair coaches, just head over to theadultchair.com and that's /coaches. And if you're interested in becoming an adult chair coach, and guess what? You can come to us and become a coach if you are an accountant, a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad. You can be an adult chair coach if you're a therapist currently, or if you're already a coach and you just would like to get certified in the adult chair and really learn this model and offer it to the world. We have the turnkey program for you. So get on the wait list. Just go to theadultchair.com/certification and you can learn more about it as soon as we launch the next program. It's coming. It's coming very soon. So get yourselves ready. Buckle in. I'm going to jump right in with Ramona in a moment. Here's a quick message from our sponsor, Hair Food. I'll be right back. We all know the benefits of eating superfoods. Well, what if we had products for our hair that were loaded with superfoods? Well, guess what? I have found them. Yep, I've been using clean, simple, kitchen-crafted recipes from Hair Food and have seen amazing results. They have a wide range of products, but I started with their shampoos and conditioners, and they are all incredible. They have tea tree and lavender, manuka honey and apricot, coconut milk and chai spice, just to name a few. And yes, they all smell as good as they sound. I've been using these products for only a month and my hair feels so much better. It feels healthier and softer with far less dry and split ends. And why wouldn't it feel healthier? I am feeding it good, healthy food. These products are also free of sulfates, parabens, and dyes, because let's face it, your hair does not want to eat that stuff. The best part is the price. The products are so affordable. Check them out for yourself at Bed Bath & Beyond, Target, Walmart, or Amazon. Your hair will thank you. Okay, let me tell you just a bit about Ramona Reid. She's the founder of the Nashville Center for Alternative Therapy, a holistic health center in Nashville, Tennessee. She's also a licensed massage therapist since 2007. She's a Reiki master and teacher. She's an intuitive Enneagram coach, as well as certified adult chair coach. Ramona integrates the wisdom of the Enneagram, transformational inner child work, and energy work concepts into her coaching practice. She works with clients all over the world. I told you, she's a wealth of information. All right, you guys, here we go with the amazing and my friend, Ramona Reid. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast, Ramona Reid.
Thanks for having me back on, Michelle.
It's so fun to have you. You are our Enneagram expert for the Adult Chair.
Okay, wonderful. I'm honored to be your Enneagram expert.
Why do you say that with such doubt?
Because here's the thing. One thing I've learned in a lot of my own work, my personal work, is that type ones, the type of Enneagram that I'm dominant in, we really like to be good at what we do. And so when someone, I think, calls us an expert, there's always this sort of hesitant well, I could know more. That happens. And so, well, I know, well, the truth is I could, and I will know more, and I will always keep learning. And also it is something that I've dedicated my life to the past 10 years. So I know a bit. So thank you. It's good to be back on.
I have that same problem, and I'm going to call it a problem that I can't stop learning. And when someone says I'm an expert, I'm like, well, in what?
Yeah.
And my husband's like, the adult chair, you're an expert and you keep growing this thing. I'm like, yeah, but I got to keep learning. He's like, no. No.
Well, I think it's like an evolution. Like we keep getting tools, we keep learning, we keep getting better. But yeah, I mean, I also am working on, taking compliments. And so, that's something that's maybe only in the past few years I've been able to comfortably do. So
yeah. All right.
There we go.
Well, we have a, whatever you are, expert or someone that knows nothing about the Enneagram, at least you and I get to talk for a little bit right now, right? We're going to talk about the Enneagram. You can tell us a little bit about what you know. And you've been on the show. I have lost track. Is it 5? Is this your 5th time?
This is my 5th time, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and this is a very, very exciting show because you're not only joining us as an Enneagram expert and coach, you're joining us as an adult chair certified coach. Hello.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Thanks to you. Yeah. The what was it they call, you called it the founding group of certified coaches.
You are in the how do you say that? Oh, Lord help me. The inaugural class. I can't say it. The inaugural class, however you say that. The first class of our coaches. And you have just finished the program, the end of March, and graduation is in 2 weeks. So thank you for being a part of this. Very happy to have you on, or have you on talking about the Enneagram, but also just to, introduce you as one of our adult chair certified coaches. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really interesting since I've gone through the program, since we started, 6-7 months ago, to really get more tools on integrating adult chair work into the coaching I already do. And some of the more maybe physical tools even that I wasn't using before. So this has been really great. It's really fleshed out my practice for sure. So I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love hearing that. So, okay. So today we're talking about, in the past, we've talked a lot about the Enneagram and, how you correct this and that and the other thing. Today we're talking about we're combining again, the Enneagram and the adult chair, but living from the healthy perspective. Tell us more about what we're going to talk about today.
Right. So if you want to go back, I want to share what it's like to kind of wake up into your type and to use some of these tools, these inner child work tools, this being in your adult chair, and see what that looks like in each different Enneagram type. So if you want to know more about the Enneagram, you can do that. If this is the first time you've ever heard about it, it's a lot of things. It's a symbol, it's a typology. It's also an amalgam of philosophy, psychology, and spirituality. And it asserts that we're dominant in one of these 9 different types. And each of them has these gifts and wisdoms, and each of them has a shadow side. And we operate from the shadow side often when we're scared or when we're in our adolescent chair. So in the other shows that I've done with you, I think it was episode 51 and 114, we talk about the Enneagram and how to incorporate it. And then in episode 176, we talked about childhood wounding and how that can happen uniquely to each type. And then I think in episode 205, we talked about stress and how each Enneagram type handles stress. So if you wanted to go back and kind of look at all of that, you could. But today, I thought it was interesting when you reached out, let's focus on the unique gifts and wisdoms that we have that show up when we learn how to care for our inner child and we learn how to recognize and appreciate and strengthen these gifts. And it's really wonderful, I think, sometimes to focus on the wins, because when we talk about the Enneagram, often, it's sort of characterized as this collection of shadow stuff and flaws and faults. And I think it can be a bit diminishing in that way. And what I like to look at it as is how we can transform into these beautiful kind of higher self qualities through waking up to the things that we think, oh, that's just me. That's just who I am. It's no, that's who your adolescent is. So how can we kind of evolve out of that pattern? So I thought that would be a good conversation.
I love it. And what I'm hearing you say through my lens is you're going to talk to us about what it's like to live in the adult chair from the perspective of your Enneagram type. Because what it looks like for me being a 7 is going to be different than you who's a 1. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay.
So when we're in our adolescent, what is happening is our way of being, who we are being, is coming from the illusion that there's something missing. So we think there's something missing. We have some sort of basic fear. And I think we talked a little bit about the basic fears and the childhood wounding in another episode. But when we start to realize that we're in fact the ones that are the source of this thing that we think is missing, of what we're looking for out there, and we start to wake up from that illusion that we need to go searching for it, that's when we start being in our adult chair. We start being with what is, and we start having a lot more strength and power. So in other words, if I, as someone who's dominant in type 1, have a fear of being bad or not good enough, and start to be scared like I'm being controlled or someone's trying to tell me to do something and I don't agree with it, my adolescent is going to show up and come up because there's no goodness here. There's no rightness. It's like I have this fear that to be good, I have to be right. And what if I'm not right? Then that means I won't be loved. And that starts to create my adolescent. What that looks like is somebody who can be very controlling and rigid And, this is what you need to do. And this is what's so. So that's my adolescent. So now when I realize that there's no goodness missing, that I don't need to be right, I just need to be me, my healthy adult comes to the table. And what that looks like for the type 1 is this sort of inherent goodness and alignment with like discernment of right and wrong. It's like my values come into play. I start to look very calm and maybe with a sense of mission and being able to like see both sides of things. Things are not so black and white. They're more gray. But really it's more like the sense of peace that comes over the type 1, where we don't have to strain to be good or to be right. We just get to be, and our virtue of serenity starts to show up. So it's what you'll see is in all of these types, when I discuss the kind of adult chair, the higher self, those healthy qualities, they all kind of seem very peaceful and still. And it's because they are. It's like when we're not doing the dance, we get to just be and present and still. This is what shows up. So I think
so much sense.
I think that should be celebrated. It's if I notice that I'm not all like rigid in my shoulders or holding my breath, or if I notice that I'm actually able to calmly interact without needing to be right. In case someone's arguing with me, I don't need to be right. I don't need to teach anyone anything. I can just listen. And I don't have to make anything else wrong out there. You just be like, this is what's so. That's the one. That's the energy of the one in health. It's like, it's the sense of like sacredness and higher values. I think of it as like the kind of the wise judge. It's a sense of integrity.
So how are you weaving the inner child in this?
Well, how we get there is by understanding that what's taking us out of our adult is the childhood fear. It's like, I need to be good. I need to be right. That's the child. And the adolescent is the one that's like, yeah, you do. So let's be in control. Let's do everything. Let's work our butts off. So then the adolescent comes along and that feels like kind of like the train, it's and then when we realize though, and wake up and see nothing's missing here. You have all these qualities in yourself. And the only way we can really get there is to identify the feeling behind the doing. The adolescent is like the doing of the fear.
Yeah.
What's the feeling? And so the work that I do with coaching and the work that I learned in your training program is like, how do you access the fear or the feeling underneath this way of being that doesn't work? It's just your personality. I'm using air quotes. It's like your shadow side, the thing that everyone looks at and goes, gosh, she's being a jerk, or she's not even present, or he's being, that's our adolescent kind of shadow energy. So what this work has helped me with for myself, first and foremost, and then with clients is to access, okay, this isn't real. What are you feeling? You're just doing your feeling. So what are you actually feeling? And then we can actually get in there and say, I'm scared. I'm scared. And how do I be scared instead of do scared?
Oh, I love that. So you really are connecting to that inner child.
Yeah. And you're telling her it's okay. I'm saying, you know what? I know you need to be right now.
Yeah.
But you're good anyway.
Well, and I also hear you say, yes, you're speaking kindly to your inner child, but you're also inviting her or him to feel their emotions. You're sitting and feeling in the body what's going on to get things moving. That's the key. For sure.
That's the only way we're going to be able to be healthy, I believe. I was just hearing something earlier about, that phrase, time heals all wounds.
Yes.
And I was reading something about that on Instagram. I think it was Black Soul Theory. She'd written something about that. And I was like, it really touched me because they were saying, time doesn't actually heal all wounds. Oftentimes time lets them kind of get comfortable and ingrained into our psyche. And it creates kind of emotional dysfunction if we don't deal with it. I think what they're saying is give things time, give things space, but I don't think time heals. I think really getting in there and being curious and working with our emotions is what heals wounds, so.
I know I would agree with that because I have worked over the years with someone, or not just one person, but many people that are stuck in grief. And time doesn't heal those wounds. You really have to get in there and look at what's going on inside and feel those emotions and really begin to live your life again and stop getting lost in story and in the past and moving forward. So I agree with you. You got to get in there. I like this. So, okay. So that was the number one. And again, I just want to share, if someone does not know what the Enneagram is, go back to one of the podcasts that I just mentioned, and I will put all of the shows that you've been on with me, Ramona, in the show notes, just so that then you can get an understanding of what we're talking about here. So that was the number one. What do you want to do next? Number two?
Well, I want to go, I'll go through all of them because I think, a lot of times, again, we in kind of pop culture these days with the Enneagram is we're introduced to the types through their way of being, their way of kind of showing up in the adolescent. So I'd like, just highlight what are these qualities that are going to show up for each type as they do their work and start waking up to these patterns. So the type 2, once they realize that this basic fear they have of being unworthy of being loved is all crap, in that they're actually they're actually very worthy and they don't need to do anything to get love. Once they get that and they start to do this work with their inner child so that she or he starts to feel loved, then this sense of like unconditional giving and generosity will start to show up, because 2s can look like they're being very generous and loving, but there's the unhealthy aspect of it. There's like there's a catch. There's this kind of hidden motive. It's all about their own sort of sense of pride and neediness. So but when they're in their adult chair, a type 2 is going to look very helpful, very considerate of others. They're going to be able to respect boundaries. They're going to be very attuned to other people's needs, but not overly so that they violate those boundaries. And then there's just the sense of like sweetness that's very enduring and very powerful, and doesn't depend on other people's interactions with them because they're the source of love. They don't need it from out there. So once you're able to kind of love yourself and your inner child, you don't need to get that fix from someone else
outside.
Yeah. And so that energy of just this really generous helper and giver will come out. And you'll know if you're dominant in type 2 and you find yourself wanting to do things and really questioning your motivations, like, why am I doing this? If the reason you're doing is because you just want to, and because love is needed in this situation and giving is needed in this situation, that's when you know you're in your adult chair. When you're not kind of wishing maybe someone to give it to you back, or I'm going to send him this message, I hope he says something back. It's like, if we're not looking for that, if we're our own source of validation, that's when that healthy 2 quality will show up.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there. Thank you.
And I think, this isn't just about if we're 2s or if we're 1s or 7s. We all have this energy in us. So there's all of us have in some way. We want to be good. We want to be loved. We want to be worthy. So we can all kind of identify with each of these types as I go through them. There's a part of me that has 5 and 6 and 9 and 8. So we can identify with the adult energies of all the types.
I was thinking that even going over number 2, I'm like, I know I've probably been there a few times too. And I don't identify as a 2, like having those same feelings that you were saying and sensations.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's, I think, a human thing for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What about the number 3?
So the type 3, the achiever, again, we're very well versed on the internet about the type 3's kind of flaws, right? But if you look at the achiever, what shows up in their healthy adult when they've done the work is a very successful, goal-oriented, self-developed type. But their worthiness doesn't lie in those things. Their worthiness exists even without the achievement, even without the status. It's a sense of unearned love, that worthiness, that value. And you'll know it because they're able to be honest about their motivations. They're able to be honest about their failures. They're able to show up and say, yeah, that didn't work out. Whereas an unhealthy 3 is going to be like all about the kind of the presentation and what they've done. And a healthy 3 is like, yeah, I totally messed that up. But their sense of worthiness isn't on what they've done. So they're actually, ironically, able then to be less tethered to the achievement and more likely to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's this sense of kind of value and radiance and efficiency in a healthy 3. And they're very ambitious, very competent, but also very attractive and charming, but also very able to mirror back your own value to you. So
Ooh,
they show up.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Type 4s, the individualists, again, one of these types that gets a lot of flack for their shadow. But the type 4s, when they're able to be healthy, they're able to own all of their feelings. They're able to see that the good and the bad both exist together. Because the 4s tend to really sometimes focus on what's not there, the idealist. I wish it was more like this. They're trying to get love through it's like this idealist frustration type. So what they're doing is they're able to, when they're healthy, be very open about their feelings, and they're being very, very accepting of themselves. So they tend to show up in a very beautiful, deep, kind of still very mysterious, creative ways that the 4s will always do, but without some of that self-abdicating, wishing things were different behavior. Right. It's more of a vulnerable showing up. It's a creative sense of expression, but it's not as reliant on other people's perceptions of them. They're seeing themselves as they are, and they see themselves as valuable and worthy and not defective. Even if they have dark thoughts or even if they have depressions, they're still they're not moody. They're sensitive, And it's
because the 4 identifies as the depression instead of having depression or sadness. Don't they get right into it and then they get lost in it?
Yeah, they forget that they think that it's them when in fact it's just, that's part of the adolescent version of the 4.
Yeah.
And they don't need to then withdraw as much to be special. They get that they already are. So they can show up also, 4s can show up more powerfully in life. And a 4 that's really healthy is going to be one that wants to serve. Because that actually kind of pulls them out of some of that adolescent behavior, is looking at other people and bringing their heart to those situations, whether it's as a therapist or an artist or some sort of creative. That's how they like to show up and serve. And they can do that when they're not so focused on their own sort of internal world.
Interesting. I like that. What about 5?
The type 5s, the investigators or the observers, I have a special affinity for 5s. I think that they're fascinating conversationalists. They're innovative. They're inspiring to me, very in their head. But that when they're really healthy, you'll know because you'll see them engaged in life. 5s oftentimes from their adolescent will withdraw just like the 4s, but more into their head. And they'll want to try to figure everything out. But the 5 that's healthy is I know enough. Let's go out and engage the world with my expertise. Oh. So it's they'll actually show up with a feeling of curiosity. Some of their gifts are being really interested and interesting, great level of concentration, and an ability to find solutions through learning, through observation. Very open-minded kind of scientist types. And they also have this really cool gift of being able to all of a sudden know things. And you can call it clairvoyance, clarity, whatever it is. But I think it's really fascinating. I think we all need to kind of tune into that part of ourselves that's 5, because it's insightful. And a lot of complex ideas and skills come from the 5. So again, when the 5s are kind of withdrawn and fearful because they're looking for safety in knowledge, they won't show up as much in their life, but you'll be able to tell that you're actually maybe getting healthier and being an adult if you're showing up with a sense of good enough. There's enough energy to go around. There's enough ideas here. They don't have to feel as incapable or incompetent. Yeah. And they're just curious and a little bit more energized.
I love it.
Yeah. So the type 6, the loyalists, or sometimes called the loyal skeptic.
The loyal skeptic.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to be here for you, but I'm not going to quite trust it or the situation until I know that it's safe. Yeah. So the loyalist, some of their most amazing skills come from their quietness but what they want to do is kind of get a consensus and ask opinions. But some of their best work comes from just a deep listening. So the sixes I know that I consider to be healthy or consider themselves to be healthy are ones that are able to understand that they have all the answers they need. You know, a six that's in their adolescent is thinking they don't have any of their own answers.
Interesting.
But when they start to listen to their own sense of their own awareness, their own gut knowing, and maybe practice daily meditation, not maybe, they practice daily meditation, they listen to their own guidance, they understand their own courage. That is a healthy six that shows up and says, I'm going to know what to do, not just for you, but for myself too. And excellent troubleshooters. They can foresee problems. They can fix things. They'll know. And they do that. They do that through a deep listening and kind of being engaged in their own knowing.
Awesome.
So I'm starting a nonprofit, and I was like thinking to myself, like, I need a six on my board for sure, because like they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to see what might be a problem later.
Oh,
because again, the adolescent six is always in that imagined future trying to figure out what could go wrong. So the healthy six.
Oh my gosh, I've got a lot of that.
Yeah, I think you do.
I have a lot. I mean, my husband laughs at me. He's like, whatever could possibly go wrong, you've got covered, and you've already figured out in your brain what we're going to do if it possibly could ever go wrong. And I think most things don't go wrong, but why is that if I'm a 7? How can that be?
Well, each type has a very strong wing on either side.
Oh,
Your wing's going to be on the other side. Either you're going to have a stronger 6 or a stronger 8 wing. I think you have a pretty balanced.
I was going to say, I think I'm in balance there. Yeah. I would agree. Okay.
But so instead of the anxiety that comes from living in the imagined future, though, the 6 just understands that they've thought about everything that could happen so that they're going to be prepared. And so that's how they can actually show up with a lot of power in their life. Because it's like, I'm going to have this. If something happens, I'm going to take care of it.
Okay.
So the type 7.
This is a very important number, Ramona. I'm going to listen closely right now. Not that I wasn't listening closely before, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you were in your adolescent, you might not have been listening as closely, because actually the type 7s do tend to get distracted. But a 7 that's healthy is going to, you're going to know a 7's
I'm going to
healthy.
own it. I do get very distracted. Yes.
Yeah. How I think that you've been doing your work, Michelle, is eye contact, presence, the ability to be with the situation and the world and the person that's sitting across from you in a really open-hearted, present way. It's like they're very engaged. They're very playful. They're very, still very optimistic, spontaneous, fun, loving, looking for adventure, but able to really see that all of that is here in the present. And then there's a sense of, their virtue being sobriety, which kind of can mean causeless joy. But what I think I sense for the 7, what it is contentment. It's like, I'm okay exactly how things are. I don't need this to be bigger, more, better. I'm actually pretty satisfied with this moment right now. And so then what y'all bring to the table is a cheerfulness and a sense of, like I said, optimism and fun and abundance and joy to each moment while being able to be in it. Because again, the propensity is, wow, 7s are a whole lot of fun, but where'd she go? You're like a gazelle. But so the healthy 7 is it's like I said at the beginning, it's a sense of calmness and stillness right here, where you still bring those traits. You exemplify those traits. You embody them. It's like it's a very exciting, present optimism and joy in the moment. Yeah.
This sounds like me.
Yeah. And vulnerability and inner child work around your fear of things not going right or being trapped or whatever it is. Vulnerability and work through that through inner child work will be what creates that healthy kind of adult energy. So that inner child work is my favorite. Like it is that and parts work. Those are my 2 favorite really go-tos. I just think that you can transform yourself so quickly using those 2. So, and so when you're working with, or if you are a 7 and you're working with your inner child, there's going to be a lot of that kind of fear about the present moment and what needs to be different, needs to be better. There can be some fear there.
That sounds like me.
So being able to be still And to sit with what is like, that's your beautiful work, and I know, this, it's what creates health for you.
It is. And I have 2 mentors I'm working with right now, and they both keep saying to me, you need to stop, just be in presence. I'm like, okay, I'm working on it. It's hard because I am go, like always moving, but I agree. And then when I sit there in presence, I lose myself, and it's such a beautiful experience. So I'm working on it. I'm working hard on it, I have to say.
I want to share a little story with your permission about something with you that I thought was perfect and wonderful.
Well, if it's perfect, you have my permission.
Well, it was perfect. It was perfect to explain and describe the energy of both healthy and maybe unhealthy. I don't know that I want to label it that, but we were having dinner. We were at True Food Kitchen. When was this? Maybe it was before COVID. So it was a while ago.
We were having dinner. About it's okay. Story.
It's okay. You can always edit and post. But so we're sitting having dinner. Good. And you said, and you were very present. We were talking about something, and it was very, we go pretty deep. So we were talking.
Sort of.
We do. Well, we
always.
And then we slip right out of it. But anyway, we were talking about something really like deep and important. And then you looked down and you said, I got to tell you what, I just need like 5 minutes. I'm going to spend 5 minutes on my phone because I can't, I'm just distracted. So I'm going to do that. And then I'll be right back. And you did, but here's what you did. You told me what you needed. You were honest. You were right. After those 5 minutes where I don't know what you were doing, Instagram, emails, texts, I don't know what you're doing. I just was eating my dinner. I think I went to the bathroom. I came back and you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you were right back with me and you were totally focused again. But it was
I did it in the middle of dinner. I would not ever do that in the middle of dinner. Did I?
I promise if I had a Bible here, I would be putting, it's okay though. I'm not making you wrong. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm pointing out that actually, I felt like that was a healthy way for you to say, yes, that was a lot. I need a minute. I'll be right back. And you did it. And I trusted that. And you were, and it was just like you were, but see what a lot of times happens with sevens. And I'm friends with several, is that there won't be that disclaimer. It'll be just you're gone. And then you come. Yeah. So you actually have your phone put away. It's gone. You're not looking at it. You're totally focused. Then you pick it up and say, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, good for you for being honest. And then you put it away. So I actually thought it was kind of nice and refreshing because I knew that I could kind of feel like you had turned off for a second. So there we go.
I was probably in a deadline and I had to check something and I was getting anxious about it. So I had to check it. And then anyway,
it was perfect.
Know. I can't imagine doing social media in the middle of dinner. That'd be ridiculous. Anyway,
moving on to
to number 8, type 8. I call it number 8.
So type 8, the challenger, the protector, they have this sense of self-confidence and strength, and they're usually very assertive, protective, advocates for the underdog. Huge.
God, that sounds like me too.
Heart-led, very passionate, energetic, vital.
Yeah. Yep.
And so when they're able to show up with their heart and they're able to work on their own fear around vulnerability and being controlled, this stuff shows up in spades. It's like this self-confidence without being overbearing and controlling or too powerful. It's like, it's just this sense of quiet strength. And it's really amazing. It's really something because it's with the heart. It's not just with the head and the body. The 8s that you can tell that aren't healthy, it's very embodied, like energy. And it can be really threatening.
It's very threatening. I agree.
Yeah. But when the 8s are actually able to open their heart, that's what brings in the very human power of the 8. And so
it just feels like it balances out that yucky, over masculine energy. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. Well, if you look at the wheel of the Enneagram, if you have a picture of it that you could kind of identify what that is the 8 kind of traveling and picking up the energies of the 2. That heart-led attunement, the sweetness, that's what gives the 8 their strength. It's not being stronger in their body or being smarter in their mind, which is where in the adolescent, the 8 goes.
Yes. In adolescent, like you've said, though, in any of these types in the adolescent, they're not, that's what we typically talk about. But yeah, a balanced 8 is lovely.
Well, they're necessary for sure to be strong leaders, to show up for us and to advocate for us and to help the vulnerable and to be vulnerable. Yeah, they're really powerful and necessary right now. So
interesting.
And then the type 9. the Peacekeepers, the Mediators. When a 9 is healthy, and I'm partnered with a 9, when a 9 is healthy, there's a very strong developed sense of what they want, getting their needs met, realizing that they matter, that they're important, that they have a voice. And the interesting thing about the 9s is even though they're oriented to a more spiritual approach, they're grounded in the physical. So they're actually right in the middle of the body triad. They're very physical, very grounded. And so their gifts when they're present, when they're in their adult chair, are a sense of groundedness. Like they can ground you just by being in the room. And that's how they're able to bring that sense of peace, is because they bring everybody back down. And there's a sense of unity that they bring. And imagination and creativity and all this other stuff too that comes with that. But their gift of harmony and balance shows up when they're able to kind of face their own fears around their own sense of just disappearance to themselves, and like they don't even matter. It's like this sort of amorphous thing that happens for the 9 when they're scared, where they just sort of disappear into whatever else you want. But when they're actually able to be like very trusting and listen to themselves, then they become just as powerful as the 8, just as powerful, just as wise and guided as the 6, just as insightful as the 5. Wow. That's the beautiful thing about the 9, is they kind of exemplify all the different energies of the types in a really powerful way.
So again, we started talking about this was beautiful. Thank you. I love this. So I like the strength and honestly, like the healthy aspects of all of these parts, or the types, because we haven't talked about those very much. And maybe the first podcast we did together when we were explaining what the Enneagram was, this was really great. But if someone is listening to this and they're saying, for example, like I'm a 5, but man, that does not sound like me. Again, would you go back to working with the inner child? Like, tell us, how do we, so yeah, they're stuck in their adolescent. And I know what I would say to get them in their adult. I mean, there are many things we can do to get in our adult, but one of them would be like really feeling your emotions and connecting with that inner child to bring that part out, the precious, vulnerable part. What would you say?
Well, first I would probably ask how they know they're a 5. Did they take an online quick test, or did they really learn about it? And are they only finding themselves then in this shadow energy of kind of withdrawn and fear and wanting to know a lot about everything? Like, is that how they know? And if so, okay. But I would just, I think, introduce that we can allow ourselves to not just be a number, at least in the beginning, at least when we're working on trauma or working on shadow stuff. It's like, allow yourself to not be boxed in yet. Yeah. Because I don't think we need to be. And I always like to say that when I talk about the Enneagram, is the point isn't to put us into this box. Now, saying that, if you have the energy of being challenged by fear and by anxiety and by worry about security, then likely you're in either a 5, 6, or a 7. You have that kind of mind energy, that kind of in the head energy. And so what I would say is, where do you feel that? The problem is with the 5 is oftentimes they're so divorced from their body that it's really difficult for them to be able to identify where they're feeling an emotion, because they have the hardest time of any of the types identifying that they're having an emotion, because it's all about their thoughts. So what I've done, I will say, in work in the certification program and also with clients, prior to that, is with 5s, it can be a little bit different. It's like, it might not be, where do you feel that fear? It might be, can you describe what you're thinking? And what does fear mean to you in your head? It's like we have to access it differently, or go to a very specific visual memory, because 5s are sometimes very visual, whereas maybe they're not visceral. So each type is going to have kind of their own approach to their inner child that you've, I think, got to be really sensitive to. Because if we just say, as even adult chair coaches, it's like, well, let's figure out where we're holding that in our body. Where's the somatic expression of grief? It's like 5s might be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Whereas other types will be like, oh gosh, it's right here in my chest, or it's in my hips. Right. 5s we have to think about differently, which is why it's helpful to know what people's types are, or what they identify with, at least. So with a 5, I would say I would probably have to go a little bit deeper to try to get them to understand what even their feelings are. Because that happens to be, you picked one that has the least ability to organically identify with emotions, which is part of the problem, because when they were young, they weren't taught that their emotions or their feelings or their needs even mattered.
So then what's the takeaway? Can you generalize it for us as far as, again, if I'm listening to this today and it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm a 2, I'm a 9, I'm a 6, I'm a whatever. Mm-hmm. How do I get more in my healthy aspect of that type? But what I hear you say is you got to learn about it.
You got to learn about it. Yeah. You got to know what's going to show up when you're not healthy.
Yeah.
So that you can see what healthy looks like. Which
is exactly what the adult chair is all about. Like, that's why we've got like all the aspects of what a healthy adult looks like, so we can reach and point our energy toward that. Mm-hmm. So if you are listening to this today, go look up and research more of what your type is. Then you'll know how do you access that part and find, again, whether it's inner child work or feeling your emotions, but how do you get and live more from the healthy perspective of that type?
Right. And I would say another thing to add in there is to not become so identified with your adolescent that you think that that's you. Because people often do. They're like, well, I don't want to lose these parts of myself that are something that I consider good qualities. It's like, you're not going to lose those parts of yourself. You're going to lose the part of yourself that acts out by not wanting to be scared, because you're going to learn how to do it. You're going to learn how to be scared, and that won't be terrifying anymore. And so you won't have to act out in these ways. It's a lot more authentic way to live. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, like, even in my personal life, I catch myself frequently in my adolescent. The difference is there's no like arriving at some place where you're just like perfect. It's not like that, but it's like, I find myself in my adolescent through sometimes things that I just said. I mean, it just happened. If you'll indulge me a quick story, it just happened this morning with my daughter. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm doing homeschooling. I'm trying to help her with her tutorial and get online. And I'm like helping her clean up because, you know, one wing, two. Mm-hmm. I want it to look a certain way and I want to help. So I go in there and I'm helping her make her bed. She hasn't really done much. So I'm a little bit agitated and I'm doing this, and I move this very important paper, I'll find out later, to her bag, thinking that was helpful. And then she gets online and she's ready to start chemistry. And I hear, "Mommy, where did you put my chemistry paper?" And I go in there and I'm like, "This one," and I find it. And she said, I think she might be a 1. I'm not sure. And I did ask her for permission to share this story, by the way, if it came up. I said, "It's right here." And she's like, "Next time, Mommy," and she had her hands a little bit clenched. She goes, "Next time, Mommy, I would like you to not move my things." Whoa. And move my papers. And my adolescent turned right on. And I said, "Oh, you're not going to teach me in this moment. I was helping you get your room ready." And then I realized she's on Zoom. I'm like, I back out of the room. I'm like, "We'll talk about this later." Mm-hmm. And then I go in the other room and I listen to something you said on your Instagram stories about accepting a boundary.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, oh no, I did not accept a boundary. I went right into my adolescent to defend myself because one wing, two, I don't want to be wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be told what to do. Mm-hmm. And I was just being helpful. Well, she didn't ask for my help. She certainly didn't ask for me to move her paper. So here's what my work is. My work is, wow, I got really triggered. That really bothered me. What am I going to do? I'm going to go talk to my inner child and say, "You didn't do anything wrong. It's okay. Mm-hmm. You moved the paper. She's allowed to have a boundary. I think you owe her an apology." I went into the other room after she was done. And I said, "I need to apologize. You set a boundary about your paper, and I'm not going to move your papers anymore. And I'm sorry." And she was like, "Wow, thank you." And I was like, "Yeah, well, thank Michelle." But I mean, the turnaround there was, you know, it was like 5 minutes instead of what used to be sometimes like weeks, months, years, right? Or just whole relationships that would go up in flames because I wasn't willing to see that I could be wrong or that I needed to be vulnerable and say, "I'm sorry." So now it's like, that's my work. That's my transformation, is seeing that my way of being from my type is I'm being an adolescent right now. I'm in my adolescent right now. Mm-hmm. And how do I meet my 12-year-old as a healthy adult? Because she's my biggest trigger, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So true, man. Kids can be our biggest trigger.
So thank you for helping me be a better parent, by the way.
You're so welcome. I'm glad to be helpful. I didn't even know. I'm glad you liked that. Yeah, I liked that. That was a good video today or whenever it went.
It was very humbling. It was very humbling because it was true. I mean, so often I think we just we hear a boundary because we're taught a lot about how to set boundaries, But there's not a lot out there about how to receive a boundary.
No.
I know how to set boundaries all day long.
Yep.
But sometimes it can be hard for me to receive a boundary from like my daughter. Like, good for her. She has a voice.
Totally. But all the inner voices come up to defend, and the sword and shield comes up. If you remember that from our certification training, that I held up the sword and shield, like we're very quick to pull that up and pull it out and defend ourselves. And again, knowing our Enneagram type, we're going to do that a little differently, probably with each type. And we've got it, in the adult chair, I say, what's the next thought? So the first thought is I got to defend myself. And then what's the next thought? The next thought is the conscious thought, which is from the adult perspective, like, now what? And you did that beautifully. So bravo to you. Like, oh, wait, hold on. I'm defending. And that's that awareness and living in consciousness. Hold on. I'm defending. Let me do this again. Let me go and apologize. Like, wow, what a turnaround that was. And what a great model that you showed up for your daughter. Like, that's a great role model. You're teaching her how to do it then. So bravo, my dear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, this was great as always. Yeah. I like this, like the positive aspects of each Enneagram type. Well, you're right. Like, we don't really talk about those. We're always talking about like what's wrong, the wounding, all this stuff. So
how can I fix myself?
I gotta fix this and celebrate. We got to celebrate the good.
Yeah. And it shows up automatically when we do our work. It shows up automatically when this is what happens when we're in our adult. We're able to be really kind of like very cool. We have all these amazing qualities. And it's like, it's not just like you're in your adult just sitting there. When you're in your adult, you can get a lot accomplished. You can be very fun and loving. And I think that that's seen sometimes too. Like the adult chair is just this like Zen master sitting on a cushion. And it's like, no, it's actually like a lot of power. And a lot of excitement and a lot of openness. And I think that I wanted to bring that up too. It's like, we're going to look different. Each of our adults is going to look different based on also our Enneagram qualities. So
yeah, agree. Where would people find you if they, first of all, give us your website, let us know what you've got going on and how people can find you.
Yeah. So I'm doing coaching, which integrating the Enneagram, the adult chair work and energy work concepts. I'm doing coaching via Zoom worldwide. So you can access that through my website, which is mynashvillecenter.com. And any of those appointments can be made. You can book those online, plus learn all about the center and different things that we're offering there. And awesome. I'm starting a podcast soon, which I hope to have you on, called Beyond the Enneagram. Talking about everything that I just said, integrating adult chair work, the Enneagram, energy work, holistic health.
I love it. Well, yet another great podcast with you. I look forward to you being back again. And thank you for all your wisdom. I know you've put a lot of time and years into studying the Enneagram, and it's a lifelong journey. And thanks for sharing your all your wisdom with us about the Enneagram.
Thanks for the opportunity.
I hope that you enjoyed that show today. As you can tell, Ramona and I have a lot of fun together. She does make fun of me, which I'm okay with, only because I love her. That's about all I have for you guys, but do not forget, share the show. And if you're interested, check out our amazing coaches at theadultchair.com. There are tabs at the top. You can check out our coaches. You can check out our coaching certification if you'd like to become an adult chair certified coach. And don't forget TAC Circles, which is our meetup groups, our adult chair meetup groups that are meeting internationally all around the world. You can join one or start one in your area. Just go to theadultchair.com. You guys, everything is there. Everything you'd ever want to know about the adult chair. Check that out. And by the way, have a lovely week. I love every single one of you, and I am so grateful for you listening to the show and following the show and sharing the show. I will talk to you guys next week, and I'll be seated right here in my adult chair.